Well, I got these chunks of aluminum bar stock, and I'm coming up with my own puller concept. So I started turning down these bushings that I can put over my threaded cylindrical rod. This one here is going to be for the 390 Husqvarnas. So what I was looking for is the small side that I could push on the inside race, but have enough of a surface area to put a washer on there so it doesn't degrade the aluminum. And then the larger diameter is going to sit right on the cases. Let me turn the camera off and I'll show you that. Alright, first, it's cold as hell in here. Alright. Second, I think this video should be labeled the answer to the question that nobody asked. And since I'm going to be working on a bunch of 390s and probably 372s as well, I figured let me just come up with something that makes it a little bit easier for me. So what I mean by the question that nobody asked is this. There are solutions out there for pulling cranks through bearings that work just fine. You know, nothing I'm going to bring to the table is terribly innovative. But what I wanted to do is to make my life easier. So, and the issue that I've always had is with these, I've used these for a long time. You always have to have 2 wrenches and they're kind of, you know, awkward and floppy. Sometimes I don't show the, you know, messing around where I've got to have a wrench on this and or a pair of vice grips or something while I'm manipulating the nut. So I said, okay, these work great. Now these are the Husqvarna shop tools. Nothing unique about pullers. What can I do to make my life easier? So got myself a bunch of roll threaded rod, basically a fine thread, and have drills and taps on the way to do the different sizes that I want. And I got to give some thanks to Matt Olson. I was chatting with him about what I wanted to do with these things, and he'd built himself a couple of tools, you know. He had a couple of threaded rod that he'd already drilled and tapped that he didn't need, or that were sort of extra from his project, and he offered to set them along so I could accelerate my project. So I figured, even though I've got this other stuff here, out of respect and appreciation, I'd make prototype number 1 with Matt Olson's drilled and tapped threaded rod, and I just attach it to my handle. You know, I'll eventually change everything over to these, but thank you, Matt, for allowing me to speed this up by a week or two. Farmer Jones. And here's my bushing. Now this bushing here is for the 390s. It's going to set, and I let that diameter be big enough to land right there on the case. And then the other diameter to get to the inside race of the bearing. But it also has to be big enough to clear the rod. So, for example, on pulling this thread, it would be a deal like this. You wind that right on. Be like that. And now I have to deal with just the one wrench instead of dealing with the two. I've got something that's relatively solid, and I can start cranking on that this way. And for me, that makes it a whole lot easier. So basically what I'm going to do is how easy that comes off, and then just do like this to get the rest of the way off. I'm building myself just a bunch of these. They may be big and awkward, but I can tell you right now it's going to make my life a lot easier. Just that very simple thing. And then for storage, I'll have myself a little box, especially with a fine thread, that fold right up like that, and you know, have the bushings and the washers and the nuts, and I'll have rods for the different sizes. You know, each one of these, I'll have the Husqvarna and the steel threads, and I'm just going to machine up these bushings to match whatever saw I want to work on. And that's hopefully going to make my life a little easier. I can tell you right now this is, and thank you, Matt, for donating one of your threaded rods. I guess this is one that he was not happy with for some reason. And here's prototype. And hopefully I'm going to have a better handle. I mean, that's kind of crude, but and again, I'm going to be going to this. It's a much harder steel, which means it'll wear a lot better. So I'm going to make myself a couple sets, and hopefully they last my service life. You know what I'm saying? But I'll make them for the Husqvarna thread and the steel thread and the big ones, and hopefully I'll obsolete these. I mean, these are great, don't get me wrong. They're cheap, like 20 bucks, maybe 40 bucks if you get them from the retail prices. And I got a whole pile of these. But what I'm going to do is, like for example, Husqvarna, they all have the same thread, you know, for the flywheel. So I'll just come up with bushings. You know what I'm saying? So I'll have one of these threaded for the flywheel, thread for the Husqvarnas, and a series of these bushings for the different saws. And actually, I probably won't need to have too many. You know? And then I'll do the same thing for the clutch side. So there you go. Answer to the question that nobody asked. This one here is going to be trickier. I'm going to use a larger diameter on these reverse threaded ones. I don't know. Maybe that'll work. I'll do one and just see. Do one for both the Husqvarna and steel. See? Then I can get rid of that goofy thing. You know, I was using on the 390s, I cut this up and used one of these standard Husqvarna pullers. And the other thing that I was trying to address is with these short little tools, you're all into the case, you know, you're all right in there. And by having a little longer tool, I'm out here. I'm working out here more. I actually might make I might make my bushings even longer so that I can have my wrench away from the case. It's easier for me to work. So, but this is for me, you know. I don't know if anyone's going to find it interesting or not, but I'll make a pile of them for myself and we'll see what happens. And I wanted to use the aluminum here. I have the 2 hard washers for the bearing surface between the nut and the aluminum. But when I'm getting onto the magnesium cases and the bearings, I was looking for a little softer surface, so I used that aluminum. So anyway, I'll make a short video. Don't laugh. You know, like I said, answer to the question that nobody asked except for me. $3.90s. Let's see how that's going to fit nicely. And that's big enough. Look at that.